repressions take place more often. The number of citations and arbitrary arrests of many important dignitaries of the opposition increases. These actions of political intimidation evidence the government's takeover of the judiciary power. But what ends contravening the division of powers is the approval of a new law of the Supreme Court of Justice that allows the government to have absolute control of the judiciary power. This new law allows the reduced majority of the pro-government members of the parliamentary to appoint and remove from office the magistrates of the Supreme Court, violating the Constitution. The passing of this law causes that international organizations such as the Human Rights Watch warn about the danger that this new law represents for the Venezuelan democracy.
Creemos que el actual gobierno tiene una enorme responsabilidad en lo que tiene que ver con el debilitamiento de la autonomía e independencia del Poder Judicial aquí en Venezuela.
The political climate heats up even more when the president denounces a supposed invasion of the Colombian paramilitary men, and even though the government tries to involve the members of the opposition coalition, the Coordinadora Democrática, in this confusing situation, the opposition continues focusing on its main objective, to persist with the democratic solution of the referendum. Finally, the review process of the disputed signatures takes place in the country from May 28th to 30th of that same month. This process tries to validate 525,118 signatures at least to call for the referendum to revoke President Chavez. During these 2 days, members of the OAS and the Carter Center monitor the process. After an enormous pressure imposed by the civil society on June 3rd, the National Electoral Council announces the preliminary results of the review process of the signatures, confirming the opposition's triumph to carry out the presidential referendum. The 15th of August is the date established to celebrate the referendum to revoke the president from power. An act that is considered by most Venezuelans, both opposition and Chavez supporters, to be the pacific, democratic, and constitutional solution to end the polarization and the crisis that the country goes through under a government that catalogs itself as Bolivarian and revolutionary.
Chávez, por supuesto, se jacta mucho de una supuesta revolución bolivariana. Aquí no ha habido ninguna revolución en cualquiera de las acepciones que querramos darle a la palabra.
Este gobierno tomó la pobreza en el país con 57% en el año 99 y la está entregando a mediados del año 2004 con un 73% de pobreza.
Even though the poverty rate has increased significantly, the president's popularity is still visible. However, his incessant promises seem to be insufficient when facing the harsh reality.
Asumamos nuestra culpa. Yo de primero seré el primer culpable si hay niños abandonados en Venezuela.
The number of homeless children on the streets has not stopped increasing in the last 5 years. The government palace does not work as a university for young Venezuelans. The airplanes keep on landing at the Carlota airport and there are no signs of an ecological park nearby. No Venezuelan or foreign investor has contributed in the construction of new highways. Regarding the rail system, the only work in progress is the one initiated on the previous governments. Even though many felonies have been reported, there is not a single person imprisoned. The reconstruction of Vargas State is still owed to its inhabitants. The Truth Commission to clarify the deaths of April 11th was never formed. Even though pro-government demonstrations keep taking place in the country, more public buses have to be hired to make these demonstrations possible. Before, he used to talk directly to his supporters in the People's Balcony. Now he only talks to them inside the presidential palace and on a television screen. The housing decreased from a percentage of 70,000 new homes built annually in the previous governments to just 20,000. More than 6,000 companies have been forced to shut down. The number of workers of the unofficial economy has increased to more than 1 million people. The unemployment rate increased from 10 to 15%, which means that almost 2 million Venezuelans are currently unemployed. And even though Chavez began his administration calling for unity, there has never been so much polarization among Venezuelans before. Unlike other Latin American countries, Venezuela has lived in democracy for 46 years and has managed to coexist peacefully without civil wars for more than a century. Nevertheless, it is a country with great paradoxes. A country that, even though has had the highest oil incomes of all its history during these last 5 years, it has a government that has not been able to improve the quality of life of its citizens and that pretends to impose a so-called Pacific Revolution.
Pero armada, que nadie se equivoque al respecto.